Hello everyone and welcome. Today we are going to be creating some cards for Mother's Day. I thought I would show you a few different ideas and I will have links to all of these in the description below. So today we're going to play with some color and just have some fun creating cards for our moms. For this one, I'm actually going to create a silhouette, but instead of being in black, we're going to do it in white. So I'm going to take my masking fluid and put it on, and then we'll let it dry. I use this color shaper tool to put on my masking fluid. That way I can draw out and get really fine lines without scratching my paper. I will also be using this pen for drawing a straight line, for getting some more of those really delicate lines. Let's start with our really large spaces. I want to make sure I get a lot on there, and I'm just going to paint it on. So we just want to fill in all of this space. This one, because it is rubber, will not scratch my paper. If I use this tool, it tends to scratch and leave scratch marks on your paper if you're doing large spaces. And this one still does get to a pretty good point, so I'm able to do this wider line here. But for the teeny tiny lines, I'm gonna use this over here. And then we will set this one aside to dry, because we need it to be completely dry. And I don't like using a hairdryer on it because sometimes that will actually adhere my masking fluid to my paper and damage my paper. So it's just best to leave that. I saw a little hole in there somewhere. I want to make sure it's all covered so when I paint over it, I'm not getting anything in there. And this will just come off on a paper towel. Okay, now we are going to go in and create our very fine lines. You can see how this here, it collects like ink, but it'll collect it, and then I can draw these very fine lines, and I'm just being very soft here. I don't have to push hard at all. Okay, and we'll set this one aside to dry. Okay, the next painting I wanted to work on today is going to be an aloe vera plant. I know succulents are very big right now, so you can draw any kind of succulent you would like, or you can copy this one as well. I will have it linked down below. I think I might do a very pale gray first, and then we'll go in and color the rest, the terracotta and the green, and I think that will be very lovely. I'm going to create a gray tone back here, and in a video here I showed you how to mix brown with blue to create different grays. So then you can look at that video, which I'll link in the description below, and you can see if you find a gray in there that you really like for this. I really like using burnt sienna and cobalt blue. I'm gonna have a warm terracotta using my burnt sienna here, so those colors will really go nicely together, and then I will have greens in here. Have that ready and prepared. Now what I'm going to do, this will help us stay out of our succulent. I'm just gonna wet the areas that I want to add the gray. So I'm just gonna paint with water around all the edges. We actually have a nice day. It's 80 degrees today, finally. This will make sure our paint only goes where we have put the water. So it's a nice little trick. If you don't have masking fluid, that can help. And then we want to wait until we see it lose its shine. And I really want to make sure I get that water to soak into this paper, and it'll absorb our color really nicely. So you want to make sure you have enough. Doing cards like these can be really nice to use up scrap pieces of paper, and then you just create it as a postcard. So 2 of these I am actually going to use more as a postcard, and that way if your mom wants to frame it, if she likes the painting, she can frame it, or you can create a card. So you can add the words to it or not, depending on how you want to give it to your mom. The words are not necessary. You can just create the painting and maybe write on the back So I'm just adding our color, and it'll move into all of those places and really make a nice even wash. Okay, now I'm gonna let this be, and I'm just gonna move on to the next one so you can kind of see where we're going from each one. Now I'm gonna start with this one. This one's gonna be a bouquet of flowers. I'm actually gonna start with doing a wet on wet technique. So I'm just going to apply water to the whole thing, and then I just want to make sure it's really soaking in. So this one is the only one that's an actual card that I can flip up, and I wanted it to flip up because I really wanted this to be lengthwise instead of horizontal. I wanted it to be a vertical. So I'm just going to continue to kind of soak this in. I'm going to take a paper towel, pick up any excess because I don't want to accidentally have this water seep in onto my painting and create blossoms. So I really want to make sure that I'm getting that off of there. And you can see we're really allowing this water to soak into our paper. We used quite a bit of water. You don't want to use a little bit, or otherwise your paper and will dry really fast and you'll get a lot of things that you don't want. So make sure you're using a lot of water and letting it soak in. Now I'm waiting for it to just lose its shine because I want to add some color and just let it bleed into each other. I want a very loose effect in the background, and then we will go in and define our flowers and our leaves a little bit more. So while I'm waiting for this, I'm gonna prepare some colors. I really want to use blues, yellows, and green, and leave some white. My mom loves those colors. You can use and change the colors to whatever colors your mom likes, because I know every mom likes something different. So don't feel like you have to do it exactly the way I'm doing it. Okay, so it's still just slightly shiny. So we're almost there. Now I'm going to prepare those colors. I want a nice, beautiful yellow. I'm using a cad yellow here. We're going to go with our blue indanthrone. Okay, look how beautiful that is. Okay, so I'm just losing my shine. I'm going to go in with my yellows first because they're so light and bright. Let's go into some yellow, and my flowers up here are going to be yellow. So I'm just touching in where I want those flowers to be. It's okay that it bleeds. I kind of want that effect. That's why I'm doing it this way. That looks good. Now I'm going to go into my blue indanthrone. See how beautiful and dark that is? So I'm just touching in where those flowers are going to be. Okay, I'm going to leave some areas white because I really want that white, and I'm going to go into my green. I'm going to use a sap green. It's not too green, so I like that one. So I'm going to set this one aside. We're going to go back to our first one, our butterflies. This one is all dry. Now this one is going to be fun. We're just going to really drop in and charge in some color. And you can do different colors or just one color. We're not creating any specific pattern. So let's go with purples and pinks for this one. Let's see. Let's go into our Quin Rose. Really like that pink. Like I said, I'm going to actually turn it this way. And I really want to just drop in color. So I really need to make sure I have a lot here. We're going to slowly build this up. This really lovely purple. See how we've got some pink and purple in there. We created a lovely mingled wash. Okay, now I'm going to go in with more pigment, less water to create some different textures. I just thought this one would be kind of a fun play with the color. I'm going to actually clean my brush here, go into my clean water, and just drop in some wet, and that will create some blossoms that will be really lovely and fun. And you can do the same thing even with your paint. Just drop in some color. You can do the horizontal lines, you can curve your lines. So none of that water goes back in there. You can touch some of that and pull some of that out if I feel like it's too much. And now we can just let it dry. Our painting here is all dry. I'm just gonna go over the whole plant with this kind of yellow that I added just a touch of sap green to. So I'm just doing a wet on dry. This way I have a little bit more control. And I'm just gonna cover the whole plant. Being careful not to go back over the spots that I already did because I don't want to create blossoms now that it's already started to dry. Now that I have dried that, I'm actually going to create my first layer on my terracotta. I'm going to just go into burnt sienna and create a flat wash. I'm actually going to mix viridian green with my sap green, having more viridian than sap because I want it to be that very bright luminous color. Keeping a very light layer so I almost still see this lighter yellow behind it, creating a flat wash. It's okay if they're not, every leaf isn't exactly the same color because the way the leaves are and the way the sun will hit them, they'll be a little different on each one. I really love that vibrant, bright green behind that gray. I'm gonna blow dry this and then add our masking fluid. I'm gonna use this one because I think I'll be able to get dots really well with this and have more control over where. I just wanna be kind of random with it. There's less at the top. These are fun, fresh. I thought they would be fun to liven up any Mother's Day with these beautiful colors and have some, you know, some brightness with being able, having to stay inside so much. We need a little bit of happy, sunshiny thoughts. While those are drying, I wanted to show you guys really quick what's going on with this one. See how the water, as I waited for it to dry a little bit more, I just kind of threw on a little bit more water splatters with fresh water, and look at all these little blossoms. I love the texture on this. I love how it's going, and I'm just gonna let it dry and then we'll erase it and finish it with writing. So this one is dry. We're just gonna erase off our masking fluid. I'm going to use on this one my 0.5 Staedtler pigment liner, just to show you some different things you can do. I think that one looks very pretty. Just a simple, elegant card. While it's wet and it's continuing to dry, we're going to finish painting our terracotta here. Now what I'm gonna do, I want it darker than that. It's always good to start out light, and you can always go darker, but you can't, you know, go lighter. And I want it to be darker in value than my plant here. Just again, doing a flat wash. It's small, so it's fairly quick. I like that darker color. I think the last layer, I'm gonna add a little bit more orange to it because I think it's a little bit too brown. I do want to add a little bit more of a bluish tone, so I'm going to add more turquoise. Okay, then what I'm going to do So I'm gonna get it wet. So we're gonna do a wet on wet. I'm just gonna do one leaf at a time. I'm gonna start here and then just focusing on one at a time. I'm not gonna cover the whole thing because I do want it to have some of that lighter green, like the sun is hitting it. So I'm just kind of keeping the base of the darks down here at the base of the flower and then just kind of running up with it and then letting it bleed out. I'm gonna make it darker here since it is in shadow. You can see how light that still appears. And then when that dries, I'm going to darken up the few leaves that are the closest to us. For now, I'm gonna go back into our pot, our terracotta pot. Like I said, I want to add a little bit more orange because I feel like it's not orange enough. That might be more what I want. That's better. Let's add a little bit more depth to these leaves right up here. And I think I'm also gonna add a little bit here. And then I'm gonna darken up under the lip of this pot here. I'm gonna do that by adding just a little bit of blue in Danthrin and just go under there and over here. Okay, and just a touch on that side. Now you can soften some of that up if you want. So I would just cover the whole thing and let it kind of bleed into there. So I have this quill pen, so we're gonna try this out. Of course, always try everything out on a scrap piece of paper. I think that'll be good. Now this one we're going to finish up. So we started it off and kind of got the flowers going. I'm just gonna go in with pure yellow in some of those spots, or I'm going to add kind of a coral to the bottoms and then pull that up. For now, that ought to work. This part, I kind of want to add a darker tone here. So I've thickened my paint up using less water, and I'm going in on top of that. So it still bleeds into the flower, but it's gonna stay nice and thick and heavy and add more depth and weight to the bottom of that flower. Then I'm gonna go in with my sap green using my liner brush because it's nice and thin, and I'm going to add those stems. I'm not connecting them, not going all the way down because they are gonna stop from some of these other ones, so we'll connect some of that later, if at all. Okay, now let's move on to some of these blue flowers. Remember, I'm gonna use that blue in Danthrin, and this flower is darker here, nice and deep up here. Ooh, look at that, look at that. I love that. Those look beautiful. Now I'm gonna change up my green just a touch I don't want to change it too much, but I need some variety within there. So some of it will be more yellow and some of it is going to have a little bit more blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of my cad yellow. This makes this lovely spring green, and I love how this turns out. I'm just going to start out really thin at the top, and then I just push down on my brush. Do the same on this side. And a little bit more yellow. I don't mind leaving a little bit of that white in there just as a highlight. I'm gonna swoop that down there. And I need a little bit more on this side. And probably some in the center here. So we're just filling some of this in. That's one reason why I liked creating that background, because it kind of fills it in a little bit already for us, so we can have those lost and found edges within there. I can just pull some different stem colors in there. Now we need the darker green, which we'll add a little bit of blue to. So I'm just going to take that indanthrone blue, just a little bit, just darkening that up a little bit so it pulls just slightly to the blue side. So you don't have to try and fill it in all the way to the bottom. It just kind of imply that that's going on. So I'm just pushing down and then pulling up, so it creates, you can practice on a scrap piece of paper. And I'm not going in here because this is going to be a white flower, and I'll show you what I'll do with that in a minute. This just helps us layer it so it feels like it's in a bouquet. This one I would just write on the inside. I'm not going to write anything on the outside. It is a card, more of a traditional card. Okay, so for our white flower, I'm just going to use a very light wash of our blue indanthrone because I really want to make sure I stay within the same color scheme. So I'm just going to use some of that to shade maybe where parts of the flower are. So it's very pale. So you can tell that it's there, but I was supposed to have one over here, but I think I turned it yellow, so it's okay. I have a way I can add some more white into it. To create a little bit more fun and interest, I'm going to add some more white to my painting. Now I can do that either with a gouache or a white gel pen. I have a white gel pen here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of interest to these blue petals, little highlights. So I'm not going to see this white pen on really any of the other paint colors. So I'm going to go in with the gouache or white watercolor. I have a Chinese white watercolor, and I'm just gonna add a little bit to it, straight from the tube. I wanted to add just some little touches, almost like little baby's breath, throughout the painting. Just, you might not be able to see it everywhere, and that is okay. It's just a fun little touch. You can add it to the spots in the painting where you know you'll see it a little bit more. Gets fun. It's very simple to do, very easy to put together. And I love the edges that are not all perfect and straight. Okay, so we're gonna add some of those flowers I really liked. Okay, I'm just gonna sign this down here at the bottom really quick with a small or liner pen. So now here we have our 3 lovely cards all ready for Mother's Day. I hope you guys enjoyed and will give this a try. And I would love to see what kind of cards you come up with for your mom, or what different designs that you decide to do. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you can be notified when I upload new videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!